Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, thanks. Few questions before we start the session. How many of you all have experienced analytics in your real life situations? Okay. Okay, so I don't see many hands. So maybe post the session, let's do this polling again, and let's see whether the question, we get more responses. How many of you all are associated with analytics applications or product development? Okay, I think equal number, hands. And the last very important question: how many of you all want to fast forward the time and head out and go for lunch? No, I mean, based on that, I'm going to, take the entire 45 minutes or squeeze my presentation. Should I ask you the question again? Okay, fine. Okay, so analytics at work. Most of us have experienced analytics in all different walks of life, and there are certain examples that I want to share before we get into the more techie aspect of it. And as I put on the pictures, give you 1 or 2 seconds to try to think about what it could be, right? And then I'll give you the voiceover. Yeah. Any guesses of what this is? Sorry? Walmart. Perfect. Okay. Anyone else? So there's a clue, and maybe that gentleman doesn't answer this question because then the whole mystery is solved. It's a warehouse. Okay. Okay. Any more guesses? Sorry? Sorry? Sets. Chip sets. Oh, motherboard. Okay, that's extremely unique, right? But we could make up a story out of that also if we have visualized it that way. Well, okay. This is a satellite photograph of Walmart, like someone mentioned there, and it's about the parking lot. Okay, and how do they use this data? So there's this UBS investment research firm which used this data in terms of by checking the number of cars that were in the parking lot, they predicted what will be the revenue per month. That's a very unique way to do it, right? Because otherwise your traditional way would be to get that data from your point of sales, your systems, etc., right? So that's again a unique. So this is, we've also started seeing, firms which use this type of information to predict the crops or the yields, right? By having the infrared and microwave image scanning, etc., to understand what is the yield in a particular country, whether it's soya and wheat and etc., etc. How good is it? What is the quantity? And based on that, the demand supply, the food grain prices get decided. Okay, so that's something that all of us experience. Yeah. Now, if you look at this. This is a very straightforward thing that we generally deal, right? Cab booking, certain call center applications. You call up and then you go on and you close the transaction. So what is already happening is the speech analytics does happen. Okay, so that's not something very trendy. But what they've started also doing is so when you start pick up a case where you're actually talking to a call center representative, and that person is not really able to sympathize with your problem, and the conversation goes on. You probably get offended during that time. Your emotions change, your voice might change, right? So what they've started doing is detecting the emotion. So emotion detection is another key aspect in call center analytics, right? So how would you use it? Detecting the emotion, getting maybe having if I'm not able to, if I'm a person who's on the call on the other side, call center representative taking all the heat from the client, maybe I'm not able to handle the situation better. What this emotion detection would do is the shift lead might intervene, or maybe the shift lead just listens to it, gives some time such that things get settled, and then calls back the customer, right? So these are the various techniques. Another aspect of emotion detection is being used in, checking frauds, right? The claims, etc. So fraud detection, that's another application. Yeah. If you look at this is more of medical, the healthcare areas. Yeah. where you have a lot of high-risk, high-plan individuals which are getting insured through the healthcare insurers. Now, what's very important for these healthcare insurers is if there are patients who are, struck unfortunately by chronic diseases, right? What it would mean that you need to keep these individuals motivated such that they are able to lead an okay, acceptable life, right? Rather than getting demotivated and health deteriorating further, which would cause lost claims. Yeah, that's another unique way. So what they generally do, the healthcare insurers, is try to segment and try to find out who are these patients whom they should target, counsel, right, and get them motivated, get them to a motivation state such that they are able to take their medication on a regular basis. Yeah, that's again a very unique way of identifying and using analytics. Yeah, insurance. I think all of us have experienced this. Yeah, in terms of the insurance clients are very, very advanced. So Jim, in our first session, mentioned about the claims insurance analytics and some of the products that Accenture has also been creating. So we have a lot of analytics associated from claims, policies, etc., embedded in the product itself. Okay, and in terms of insurance, what is very unique is you should not really have the same kind of premium associated for every client, right? You need to decide the risk score, yeah, and then give benefit to the people who are not that risky. Now that's predominantly we are very much aware from a health perspective. What's again a unique that we have started seeing as a trend is for some of the PNC insurance companies, what we've seen is there is a particular offering which you have to have the device, put in your car vehicles if you are doing a car insurance. And then based on if I am a very rash driver, right, that kind of data would go back and then your premium will get readjusted. So that's a real time of integration and then, checking in terms of what should be the premium. Insurance has again various wide, areas. So fraud detection, in the health area where there's a lot of fraud detection to be done in terms of if there are a lot of claims being done by having a nexus between a patient and a healthcare provider or a doctor or some medical transportation unit or some surgical kind of components. So now to detect all that, there's another very unique feature of social media analytics that comes into play where you're trying to understand the relationship between these and then derive insight. Yeah, gaming. I think this is a very entertaining topic. And this is gaming and media is something very, very entertaining for all of us. And if you notice, Harrah's is a very, a leading gaming company, right, from worldwide. What they had used analytics in their business processes since many years. So what they've done is the right time. So see, we as individuals, if we go to a gaming center, and we need to be satisfied that we were able to play the right time, right? If you've been charged about $200, $300, then you should feel that you played for 10 minutes or 5 minutes and it was fine. If you feel that you were kind of cheated, you would probably not go back. So psychologically, it's very essential that you feel satisfied. And what is that? Is the optimum time at a gaming center, right? So that optimum time gets decided at the gaming center. Secondly, if there are, the slot prices, depending on the demand. So if, a particular place, there's a lot of demand and the other place it's not, so you might probably have the slot pricing accordingly. Harrah's also did a very unique way in terms of if their hotel rooms were not, effectively, booked or overbooked, then in certain seasons, they gave, 1 night, 2 night frees to, some of the customers who were contributing a lot. Yeah. So these are the various aspects that gaming industries have started seeing. In terms of media and entertainment, Shantvi gave a very interesting, example about the movie and the TRPs and the social media, etc. Right? So we've started seeing that. There's a lot of white space. There's a lot of there's no single product, should I say, which will probably give you the a closed loop kind of feedback to a production house in terms of how should they create their soap operas, etc., right? So there's a very interesting use case that we worked on where you, for a particular production house, depending on the scripts, depending on the individuals, and depending on the emotion of the individual, sometimes the TRPs rise up, right? So if there's probably, love and jealousy, etc., maybe the TRPs are really high, right? And if it's the business as usual, normal, boring things, then the TRPs are low. So how would you associate, use that information? So you see that interestingly, some characters are killed and some characters brought back. But those are all happening probably right now, on just as a manual way in terms of looking at TRPs and the script writers changing. But we've also seen the trend that they would want to automate this, yeah? So that's again a unique way in terms of media is reacting to analytics. In addition, the advertisements that are aired on televisions, there's a lot of analytics behind it, right? Because in television or in movies or anywhere, the time is a commodity. So you need to use time very effectively in between the ads, etc. So how would you ensure that you're using it optimally? So that's again an analytics application, yeah? How many of you do trading? Stock markets? Quite a few hands. Maybe you already are using this, right? Mobile devices, seeing the trends per month, per year, etc., doing some tradings, etc. So this, if you see, is already in there in the market in terms of mobility, analytics for a business application as we individual users. But how are trading regulatory authorities using analytics? They would want to find fraud detection, insider trading, circular. What you mean by insider trading is, if, I've traded it to someone and someone else trades it to someone, and this is a circular loop, and because of which you're actually hiked the prices, right? And you would want to detect these kind of fraudulent cases. So that's another business application of insider trading and aspects. Social network analysis. If you consider, most of us have Facebook, Twitter. Yes, no? Okay. So maybe you've tweeted something about the feedbacks, sessions going on here. We might be able to get the informal and real feedback about these sessions from those social network sites as well. Now, social network analysis, if you see, has got a wide coverage, and most of the firms are. Some of them are accepting it and incorporating it, but it's not yet bundled into a product as such, right? Holistically for any one specific industry. It's maturing. It's still on its maturity. It's not really matured yet. So when you see social network analysis, like you mentioned about the claims fraud, if there's any connection between a patient and a doctor and et cetera, if this is not an obvious relation, you would be able to do it through an SNA analysis, that is the social network analysis, yeah? The other areas where this gets used is in terms of if there is a negative sentiment about any product, then product companies would want to use that very effectively and very urgently, because that is something they would want to feed back to the product development in their R&D sections to ensure that that gets in, right? The employment, companies would want to hire new recruits. They use this to find out in terms of what's the kind of profile. In addition to our resumes, this is again another input that is very uniquely being used, yeah? With that said, let me take a pause and ask right now, how many of us have experienced analytics in our real life? Okay, fine, right. So if you consider analytics, analytics is something like a reporting, a dashboarding. If you high end would be predicting, right, mining. And with what? With the data that you have, right? So when you need a lot of data, at least you need the history to, to predict. You would need the transactional data, etc., to understand what is your present metrics, right? So when you consider analytics, we break it in Accenture as descriptive and predictive. So when we say descriptive, it's more of the trend charts, the KPIs, the metrics that is there as is right now, or of the past history, right? So you generally call it the rear view mirror when you're driving, right? And predictive, or data mining, etc., are something which you want to predict and ensure that you take these insights into your business decisions, right? So that's how we consider analytics as a whole. Now, what all you need to ensure that you are able to build an analytics solution or a product, or have analytics features into our products which are probably not designed for analytics, right? So what I mean by that, you could have a fraud detection analytical product, right? So the function of it is analytics fraud detection. Whereas you might be actually developing a product which is not closely associated with analytics. So what we are saying is, we would want to have products get analytics features into such products so that, because analytics is one of the key trends, you are able to get benefit of analytics, mobility, etc. into the product, and that's going to be our real differentiation. Yeah. Now, with respect to that, what is required from a design principles perspective, right? We need to have a good quality data. The foundation should be right. If you're trying to do some descriptive analytics where you have to have dashboards, KPIs, etc., you need to have a kind of a data warehouse or an ODS, etc., which will be able to, with the help of which you will be able to do the reporting, right? Now, if you're doing a product development, what we would need to do consider as features that we need to think through is, if this is a product that we've developed, from where is the data is going to come? If the product is going to create certain data elements, then how is the flow going to be, right? If we would want to embed analytics into the product development itself, yeah. I'm not too sure if the team sitting behind is able to really see this, but the broad pillars that we require from a logical framework perspective is the data, which is very key and essential, because without which you're really not able to do a descriptive or a predictive kind of analytics. Yeah. Data management, which is more of, you would have data from various sources and different consistencies, inaccuracies, etc., right? So you would need to do certain amount of data management tactics, which is like data quality, profiling, integration, all of that, which helps you to actually use the right kind of data. And it's very essential that we use the correct quality of data, because then you're going to make a judgment or a decision based on that. So it's very essential that the quality of data is also very good, right? Now, from if you consider the data management, we'll have the data integration quality. The foundation needs to be in terms of data architecture, which is like you have a right appropriate model, data model, which will give you the descriptive and predictive analytics. Yeah. In terms of methods, what we mean by methods are, if it's pure descriptive analytics, is more of dashboards and reports and slice and dice and all of that. In terms of predictives, it gets into more of statistical mining techniques, right? So clustering and neural networks, regression algorithms, collinearity, and all of those type of complex statistical things come into picture when you're talking about predictive. Yeah. And in terms of consumption layer, even if you are able to create a model, we typically call it as a predictive model, or the reports, even if you're able to create reports which give you all the data, but if you're not able to visually represent it, it's very difficult that a person is able to really understand the value of it, right? So data visualization is another very important trend that we see. So whatever analytics we do, descriptive or predictive, it's essential that the data visualization is an important aspect, because that helps us in taking the quick decisions, right, and making the right impact. This is again a slide which gives more details about how it's really done from an enterprise in terms of the flow of data flow, right? So a typical scenario where you're actually building, you have various data sources, right? So it might be called tickets, or it might be data from legacy systems, maybe from social media, unstructured data, etc. Right? All these data sources you probably would want to put them in a data warehouse or a data store, and then from the data warehouse or the data store, you typically do the reporting. Yeah. Now this is a normal, typical data warehouse, business intelligence, analytics kind of application and architecture. Now there are also cases where if you have a good amount of data in some shape or form, maybe you're not really doing all of this, right? So certain departments, what they do is, instead of going a big bang approach of doing an enterprise data warehouse and things like that, they would actually focus, get the data, and just do the predictive aspect, right? So you probably have a customer analytical record which is already created, maybe not through a warehouse, but you have the sources, you create a flat normalized data structure and use algorithms to find out customer segmentation or predictive models just on pure data, right? That's another technique that some of the clients use from in very focused departments. So because EDW and all of this is a journey. So while this journey is progressing, if there are certain burning demands that the department needs to fulfill, then they would take a tactical approach of taking the data sources, integrating, creating the analytical record, and doing a mining aspect, right? Or some tactical approaches of creating certain quick and dirty dashboards to help go on with the decision making. Yeah. These are the various algorithms that are used. Now, in case of descriptive analytics, it is very straightforward. So if you know the normal trend charts, right? So in terms of how has been my key top 10 customers, or customer sales by region, and the normal slice and dice type of reports that are very straightforward. And you have a lot of software products, etc., which will help you do that. Now, these are very specific data mining algorithms, right, where we consider predictive analytics, right, in terms of you would take the data, you would want there is a supervised way of doing and an unsupervised way of analyzing that data. So if you, for example, customer segmentation, right, you would want to have an effective customer campaigns. Then you would segment the data and you would see which customers you would want to target and what way. That's a very typical, normal style of customer segmentation examples. Now, in case of telco, if there's something on churn management, right, where you want to ensure that your client doesn't go to the other service provider, what generally they do, they would see that how is your usage been month on month. Is it that your usage has drastically got reduced? Is it something wrong? Has the person just gone outside, out of station, coming back, maybe give some time? Or else you'll get a call, right, from the call center representative giving you some offers. Now, those are certain things that you typically have, experienced, right? Now, in terms of if there are very complex algorithms that need to be developed, then what generally is done in predictive analytics is take the representative data, right, and give it to a particular product, which is like a SAS or an KX. EN or an R or SPSS, let's say. These are predictive, mining, predictive analytics tools. What it would do is try to find the hidden algorithms, right, or insights or patterns from that representative sample. So if, for example, it does this particular data representative sample which is given to me, follow a particular pattern. Like, for example, in geometry, when we were in school, etc., we have probably seen y equal to mx plus c, right? Kind of a straight line. There are some nods and maybe nostalgic moments about our school days. So this is like a typical, where y you would consider is as a target variable. So it might be like, what should be the risk score for a particular customer who's come, right? So that might be your target variable, which is y, right? And then your mx plus c are your other variables, which are the dependent variables. Now it's not going to be a simple equation or a linear equation for certain complex situations. It could be a very, very complex multiple regression kind of model that gets developed. But just to explain that this is the way the algorithms are kind of written, yeah. These are over to the the hardcore vendors which are there in this space. Yeah, if you consider the insight generation, which is more of giving you that predictive mining aha moments or insights. Which are these? These are the typical ones that you might have heard: SAS, KXCN, SPSS, etc. Right? The other ones which you see as MNO, Vistar, these are very specific, or InFocus, Panorama, etc. These are very specific. They have the bundled predictive analytics capability. Some of them have descriptive analytics as well. And for most of them are for general industries. InFocus is very specific to insurance. Yeah? And if you see the Cognos, business objects, MicroStrategy, these are the reporting tools, or the normal descriptive analytics products which are available in the market. What they've also started doing is started incorporating the predictive predictive algorithms within them. So MicroStrategy, business objects, they've all started adding features into them, and they would want to compete with the predictive products as well. R is an open source technology, right, where it's kind of giving a tough competition to SAS, should we say, but then SAS has got a good amount of R&D behind the various algorithms that are there. So it's very, very one of the top-notch vendors which are available in the market. Now, if you consider how would we, so this we saw, we kind of got a glimpse of various use cases where we've seen things in real life, analytics being used. There are already certain vendors which are very focused. So you have certain for insight generation. There are certain for visualization. These products are already exist, right? Now, how would we use this in this context of product development? So, for example, if you're doing some product development for insurance, right? Let's assume you're creating a particular product for claims insurance. Then what we're saying is, even if the basic requirements might not be that you need to use analytics, but you would probably want to embed the features of analytics into those products itself. Yeah. So what it would mean that either you code and try to get those features for the product, or the other solution could be have these vendors include those into your product itself. Now, different approaches, which one to take, we will have to decide based on the requirements, right? But that's how is, what we've also seen is, if you look at this, I'm not too sure if it's very clear, but there's a lot of CRM applications which have got analytics embedded, right? It's there, it's business as usual. No one talks about analytics in CRM because it's already incorporated, it's already there, it's already embedded. So it's BAU right now, right? So for example, the other screenshot talks about some of the analytics in SFDC. So this is already there, it's already embedded. So what we've seen as a trend is analytics might not, right now for certain firms, they would go and have projects on analytics. Later on, what we will see is products having analytics embedded in them. So you really would not have a project or an SI implementation maybe for having analytics applications, right? So that could be the trend, right? So this is a hype cycle. What I saw was Sanjeev, started a session with the hype cycle. I'm ending this session with the hype cycle. So if you see, let me just explain in terms of why you wanted to, put this slide, right? So if you all are familiar about the hype curve, it talks about you have a technology trigger area, right? There's something hits in the market, and there's a lot of hype about it. The media created hype and etc., and the vendors created hype, and then you start feeling, yes, this is going to solve all my problems. So that's the hype curve, right? The technology trigger. Then you have a peak of inflated expectations where, boop, it just goes down because you expected it to do a lot of things. It really doesn't. So most of the things, what you see is it's not really met expectations. So some of them are there on the peak of inflated expectation, where in fact that's the disillusionment where it goes down, and peak of inflated expectations, you still, there's a lot of hype created that, these products will really solve all your problems, right? Scope of enlightenment is when you really start, organizations start really understanding the real value of that particular technology or a product, and start embedding and accepting it in their normal business cycle, right? And then that's the productivity. So if you see, would want to call out there are certain. So every year Gartner publishes this, right? And how you would probably use it is there were certain trends which were there last year, and if you compare that this year, those have been dropped. Why? Because those are probably either they have got incorporated into the product itself, or it's not there. No one cares probably, right? So for example, the product optimization, the customer campaigns, etc., analytics, those were there in the hype cycle last year. Those are not there now. If those have got incorporated into your normal products itself, and it's become business as usual, so though you really don't treat it as an analytical application anymore, right? Certain things that have got added this year, those are certain things we need to watch and really see whether those are how they're going to impact. What I see and notice is if you look at the various trends that we have, right, mobility or cloud or analytics, we've started seeing a lot of requirements where all of these are together, right? Because we as users use mobile applications. The cost aspect is always that firms would want to invest heavily onto their hardwares, etc., and the various advantages that cloud provides, and analytics, which gives a very competitive edge to firms. So if you consider why would firms want to get into analytics, because there is a study done, a research done, which is published and widely known that high performing companies or firms have used, most of them, 90% of them, have used analytics as a competitive edge. And that's how they've actually, been able to really be on their toes, right? So if you see, I see the future as all these three coming together, and if we have a product which incorporates and gets mobility and analytics into it, then that's the best product, right? Because that's what you see as trends, and that's what all of us would also want to have. So with that said, I will give you 7 minutes back. I wanted to cover the session, reduce it, just because we are just close to lunch, and I would wanted a focused attention from all of y'all. So thank you so much for being a very good patient.